2021 was a good year, but in terms of videos being put out on the channel, yeah, not so much. I really struggled with producing steadily. Part of that could be lack of motivation. Part of it is most certainly that I'm getting a little bit better at self-care, trying to stay healthy, trying to spend time with my family. So those are really good things. And also I've been putting a lot of time into my Icewind Dale campaign, which I'm running over on my live channel. I'll put a link right up there at the top. But whatever the reason, this left me with a really big stack of RPG books back there on the shelf that were waiting to be read, waiting to be reviewed in some cases. So there's probably a good 12 to 20 books that I haven't reviewed back there, and it would have been great to do that in this past year, but, you know, time. There are definitely a few, however, that really rose to the top as ones that, even though I don't have time to fully review them, I just have to share them with you. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. I'll put links to all the books down in the video description, and most of those are affiliate links, so buying through them does give the channel a small commission at no extra cost to you. It's a great way to support what I'm doing here. In the interest of transparency, I will also leave little notes on screen like this and this, stating if I bought these books at the game shop, if I got it for free, if I backed it on Kickstarter, or whatever the case may be. But anyway, let's head over to the table and start looking at the books. First up, we're going to be talking about the Game Master's Book of Random Encounters. I think I've had this thing for maybe about 2 years now, and I really like this book. I honestly haven't used it that much, but I can definitely see some value here. One thing for sure is that it comes with some actual one-shot adventures. So that whole title, Random Encounters, I think it's a little bit of a misnomer. When I think of random encounters, I'm thinking of this sort of thing, variant encounter, where you just have like, hey, if you're in this location, if you're in this environment, roll a d6 and one of these things happens. You know, maybe it's just a caravan on the road, or maybe 2d6 goblins ambush the party, or whatever it is, right? So that's the sort of thing I generally think of, but this is a lot more robust than that. So it actually does have some one-shot adventures here, and you can see that some of them are over 10 pages long, so they're decently sized, and there are tons and tons of maps in here. The one-shot adventures also come with custom stat blocks for certain monsters and NPCs, so we can get a feel here for, you know, Mother Knows Best is the name of one of them, and just to get a feel for what sorts of things you're going to find in that one-shot adventure. There's some maps, some roll tables, some NPCs, and then some monster stats. So yeah, it's a whole complete little story there for each of these one-shot adventures. So that's one thing that's really cool, and you can kind of slot these into your campaign if you're in need of a quest, an adventure. There are also, however, some random encounters, but again, they're still a little more detailed than I would expect. So those are based on various environments. Here we have taverns, inns, shops, and guild halls. Go a little further and you find temples, tombs, and crypts. A little further, you have the great outdoors, homes, hideouts, lairs, and labs. You get the idea. So there's a bunch of different environments, and then each one of these is about a page. So you're getting an actual environment. Again, not just a random encounter. You're getting a map for each one of these. You are getting a little description of the place, and then some things that could happen there. And I think that this would be a great book for a new DM who wants to maybe create their own campaign, but wants to be able to use some environments and even some one-shot adventures that can kind of help them get a feel for what D&D is. So you can kind of slot these in and try to fit them in with the story that you want to tell. The maps themselves, I'm not a huge fan of. The black and white, highly detailed style does sometimes confuse my eye and make it hard to see what's what. If you're going to go black and white, I would say keep it more kind of simple line art where things really stand out. But overall, can't complain too much. They're pretty good. And the fact that there are 500 plus customizable maps, yeah. This book has a lot of good stuff. So just a huge kind of tome of ideas and inspiration, and it is all D&D 5th edition compatible. So there it is, the Game Master's Book of Random Encounters. Check it out. Oh, by the way, you do get a bunch of randomized tables in the back. So here's a randomized NPC generator, tavern generator, random curse creator, all kinds of other stuff back here. So yeah, all told, the book is a little over 250 pages, and you can get this book for only $22.99. which seems like a really good deal. Next up, we've got A Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin from Absolute Tabletop. This book might be the heaviest book on my RPG bookshelf. It's massive. It's almost 500 pages, and it's dense with content here. So yeah, this is a massive tome. This is a D&D 5th edition compatible setting guide. But it's not just going to be full of lore and things like that. The focus is really on usable gameplay stuff for game masters. And it's really going to focus on giving you resources for character creation, for adventure creation, and things like that. So yeah, for both players and GMs, this has a lot of stuff. The setting itself is pretty unique. Dragongrin I would describe as kind of a dark fantasy setting. Evil has won the day. Now what is kind of the premise. The dismembered lord reigns supreme over the land, and heroes are not welcome here. Being a hero can get you killed, and yet, of course, you usually are going to be playing those who dare rise up against the darkness, right? So there is about 20-25 pages here on just kind of the setting and some of the basics of the setting. And then you get into the section on character creation. The only thing I think you're going to need a player's handbook for here, because it is 5th edition compatible, would be for your class. There are some new subclasses here, but they don't have the basic class information for fighter, rogue, warlock, etc. So you need either the player's handbook or the open gaming license. Actually, you can get for free online as a PDF. That would work too. But yeah, they have heritages, which are basically like your races, and they have their own little twists on some of the basic, human, dwarf, elf, and things like that. They also have tome hearts, which I think are like constructs. And then you get into the cultures, and these are what really shine, I think. The cultures are very unique. They each have their own kind of look and feel, styles and things like that. And that is going to be a little more defining of your character. It's the region that they are from. Then you do get the backgrounds. A couple highlights here. There is a map write background, a map creator essentially. How cool is that? I love it, right up my alley. And another cool little Easter egg I found here is this bit on Distant Traveler. One of the little pieces of art here is a map that I happen to have on my wall. It's like a miniaturized version of the Aeronaut map, which I drew several years back for the guys at Absolute Tabletop for the Aeronaut setting guides. So yeah, that was pretty cool to see in there. Most of the art here is done by Alexander Kostic, and I absolutely love his art style. I would describe it as kind of comic booky a little bit, but man, I just really, really like it. I like his art so much that I hired him to do my channel banner. So yeah, if you see the art there, I hired him to do that. Learned about him from his work with Absolute Tabletop. So yeah, good stuff. But there are some other artists in here as well. And the book overall has a ton of art. I love the world map here too. This is done by John Pintar. And then further into the back here, you have a bunch of information on each of the regions, which are called Dominions of Ash. And for each of these, they also have a more detailed map, which are all done by John Pintar as well, and they are so good. Like, look at that art there. I absolutely love that map. So yeah, really cool stuff. There is so much I could say about this book, but yeah, there is just a ton of stuff here. General game master advice, adventure creation tools, setting information and lore. An absolutely massive tome, and if you're looking for a good, unique setting for your D&D 5th edition game, this book has you covered. Definitely recommend you check it out. So that is A Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin. Next up, Blades in the Dark by John Harper. I've been meaning to do a review and just wanted to play it first, honestly, and haven't gotten around to it. This book is very highly regarded, and you'll read lots of positive reviews out there. I'll actually read the description here because it's spot on. Blades in the Dark is a game about a group of daring scoundrels building a criminal enterprise on the haunted streets of an industrial fantasy city. There are heists, chases, escapes, dangerous bargains, bloody skirmishes, deceptions, betrayals, victories, and deaths. It's set in the cold and foggy city of Duskville, and this is in an industrial city, but It's also fantasy. There's perpetual darkness. It is haunted by ghosts. There's been some kind of magical cataclysm, and yeah, it's all pretty dark, moody, and intense. I like that they have these touchstones here, kind of works of fiction that you can draw from for inspiration. Things like Peaky Blinders, The Wire, the Dishonored series, Gangs of New York, things like that. But anyway, the system itself, in terms of the dice, you're generally going to be rolling several d6s at once. And if the highest die is a 6, it's a full success. 4 or 5 is a partial success. So you get some consequences, trouble, harm, reduced effect, etc. And if you get a 1 through 3, that's a bad outcome. Things go poorly. I really like this kind of visual here that shows the basic structure of play. You've got free play, which is generally going to be a little bit more loose. And then eventually you're going to be planning for the score, which is the mission, the quest, whatever. And a lot of the success of this is going to be determined by the engagement roll, which is kind of how well does the mission start. And then you get into some of the actual actions and consequences, flashbacks as well. And lastly, you have downtime. And one of the things that's cool is when you finish the score, one of the downtime activities that the game master is doing is actually helping determine if there is any heat, any attention from law enforcement that is being drawn, and any entanglements. Are you getting into the turf of other rival gangs and things like that? So, yeah, anyway, that's cool. There's a payoff. Yeah, you finished the mission, but could there be some complications as well? All of this is explained in much more detail in chapters on downtime and on the score and things like that. I really like the names of the player characters as well, the kind of classes. You've got Cutter, Hound, Leech, Lurk, Slide, Spider, and Whisper. The art is also really cool. This very kind of grayscale, dark and moody sort of feel. Definitely throughout here. Really consistent look to the book. So I like that. In the back of the book, you do get a lot of stuff on the setting of Duskville, including some landmarks and descriptions of each district, as well as things like wealth, security and safety, criminal influence, occult influence. You get a little chart that shows how much of that you have in each district. So yeah, really cool book. A lot of people really love Blades in the Dark. Check it out. I believe it retails for about $21 right now on Amazon. The next book on the list is another dark and moody book, and it is Free League's Vaesen, Nordic horror role-playing. I absolutely love this book. I have never played Vaesen. Let me say that up front. I don't know if I ever will. I do hope to, but man, I have no regrets if I never do, because I absolutely love Free League's book. Just the book craft, the layout, the art is always top notch. So let's get into it here. Vaesen is a game that imagines if all of the mythology and superstition of traditional Scandinavia were real. All of the monsters, Vaesen, were actually real. And it takes place in the 19th century, so kind of a time of transition in Scandinavia and much of the industrializing world. A lot of the old traditions are going away, and many people don't believe in those old superstitions, but there are still those who do, and especially the player characters are those who have the sight. They are able to actually see the Vaesen, and they eventually will be forming a society. The player characters will be part of the society, and you'll actually be operating a hideout. And there's actually even a character sheet in the back for that hideout here. In addition to the player character sheet here, we have the headquarters sheet. So that's pretty cool. You can get upgrades and things like that. So yeah, the different archetypes here are academic, doctor, hunter, occultist, officer, priest, private detective, servant, vagabond, writer. And each of them is going to have different skills and abilities. And you get the feeling from these character classes that it's not just going to be based on combat, using a sword or gun or magic, but you're also just going to be doing a lot of mystery solving and trying to overcome all kinds of obstacles. Yes, there most likely will be combat at some point. You have a whole chapter here on conflict and injuries, But a lot of the problems can't just be solved through combat. You're going to have to use your heads, and you're going to have to do some investigation and research in order to overcome the Vaesen. Now, Vaesen themselves are neither good nor bad. Some of them can be very mischievous and evil, but others of them can be more cooperative with humans and trying to help people. It really just depends. But imagine that a lot of the problems that people are encountering, if there are actually these strange, invisible to most creatures behind these problems, things like the ash tree wife. So, yeah, these kind of weird superstitions. Now, reading some of the stories in here, I actually felt the hair standing up on my neck. It was creepy as all get out. So we'll just say that really some pretty dark and creepy stuff here. But I find it interesting that, the Vaesen themselves, generally killing them is not going to be the best option. You can actually perform certain rituals to banish them. And maybe doing research and trying to figure that out would be a part of the process. So anyway, really beautiful book. Love the art, both the vibrant color art and then also the more sketchy art. I think it all works really well. So yeah, really looking forward to getting a chance to play Vaesen at some point in the future. Check it out. Next on the docket, Monster of the Week. Yes, another monster game, but this one is very different from something like Vaesen. I would describe it as much more kind of campy 80s and 90s action horror sort of feel. Things along the line of maybe Buffy the Vampire Slayer or X-Files or maybe Lost Boys and things like that. So yeah, I really like this book. I did get a chance to play this one briefly. I had a friend run just a one-on-one game for me a while back, and it was a lot of fun. The basic system uses 2d6s, and then you'll be adding a bonus depending on your skill in certain things. You play the role of a hunter. Now, every single hunter will get some basic moves, and those are listed right here. They're described a little bit further later in the book, page 101. And then depending on what hunter you pick, you also get some moves that are specific to that hunter. So for example, the Divine can get all of these moves. The Monstrous can get all of these moves. So those are your basic abilities, the things that you can do. And again, you'll be rolling 2d6 and adding a modifier to that or subtracting perhaps based on your skill in certain things. In general, you can see here that a 7 or higher is good, a 10 is really good, and a result of 6 or lower on your 2d6 is a miss. But each individual move has its own bit of detail on what your results will mean for that move. Overall, I found the game to be more focused on narrative and keeping things moving very quickly. You're not going to be dealing with lots of hit points and armor class and I hit, you miss, and that kind of back and forth. It's going to keep things moving a lot more rapidly and kind of an action movie feel in my experience with the game so far. There's a lot of good general game master advice in here, and there's also an introductory mystery, Dream Away the Time. So that's really cool. I love it when books include an introductory mystery like that. So yeah, really cool system. I think it would work really well for high improv and kind of action movie sort of feel. Definitely check out Monster of the Week. I picked this book up on Amazon a while back for $20. All right, and the last book on the list here, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons for D&D 5th edition from Wizards of the Coast. Yeah, I know, I usually do full reviews of these books, but I've kind of stopped that lately. I think I've just gotten a little bit of D&D 5th edition book fatigue. They also stopped sending me the books for free. So yeah, I'm fine with paying for books. I got patrons who are supporting the channel and I can afford to buy stuff. And I bought a lot of these books. But it was a lot easier when it just showed up at my house and it was kind of like, yeah, sure, I'll review that. So this one I did go out of my way to buy, although I have skipped a number of the recent book releases from WotC just because of that kind of D&D book fatigue. I just can't keep up with them all. I don't have the time. I'm running games, I'm making videos, and life gets busy. This one stuck out to me because dragons. dragons are cool. I like dragons. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on this book because there are tons and tons of review out there, and this book probably gets more publicity than it deserves. But there is a bit of lore in the beginning, and then you get some new character options, which, hey, I'll take some new character options. They're all dragon related, including stuff for the Dragonborn and some new subclass options and other stuff like that. Also get some stuff on dragon magic, new spells, new magic items that are all dragon related. Draconic gifts do seem pretty cool, so little kind of things that a dragon might bestow upon a player character. And then you get this section on dragons in play, which honestly I was a little surprised is not more broken down by the type of dragon. In terms of their mannerisms, bonds, flaws, and secrets, it seems like that would be pretty specific to the type of dragon that we're talking about, the color, if you will. But they do get into some of that other stuff later on. But yeah, information on dragon campaigns and kind of like just how to use dragons in games, which I think that's useful stuff. Layers and hordes here, this is all really cool stuff. And then here is where we get to the actual different types of dragons. Amethyst dragons, and there are some new types here. These gem dragons are really cool. Each one of these in the Draconomicon do come with their own layer map, which is also really nice. Useful stuff in game. So that chapter, the Draconomicon, is pretty big. There's a lot of great content there and actual, encounter useful material. And then we get into the bestiary, which has lots of new monsters. It goes all the way from page 159 to 223, I believe. And yeah, just tons of new monsters that are all dragon related. And there are some new types of dragons as well. I really love these draconians. They look really cool. So that is Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. All in all, compared to a lot of the other books, we're looking at, retailing for $50 for 220-ish pages. Compared to some of the other books I'm looking at, honestly, it seems like a bit of a stretch these days. But there it is. Fizban's Treasury of Dragons is one that I wanted to have on my shelf. I really haven't used it at all yet, but it's one that I want to have access to, so I picked it up. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these books down in the comments. What do you like? What do you not like about them? Do you feel I got anything wrong? And if you have other hidden gem RPG books that you absolutely love that you feel that not enough people know about, I would love to hear those as well. I'm always open to your suggestions for future reviews, which I do still hope to do. If you enjoy these videos and you want to support them, don't forget a couple good ways to do that. One, the affiliate links down in the video description for Amazon, DriveThruRPG, and Absolute Tabletop are a great way to support. And of course, there's always the Patreon, patreon.com/WASD20. Just a couple bucks a month gets you access to weekly live map drawing streams with me. And you can also get access to campaign diaries for my ongoing Icewind Dale campaign. And it's just an awesome community being a part of this kind of more tight-knit group of WASD20 supporters. Thank you so much for your support, patrons, and thank you all for watching this video. Take care, everybody. You'll see me again very soon.